Spurred by a tense standoff with a homeless man recently, District 1 Supervisor Roger Gitlin hosted a town hall-style confab at the fairgrounds this past Wednesday to discuss homelessness in Del Norte County. The public was invited to voice their concerns before a panel of local city and county officials, and in turn was treated to a lengthy discussion on the merits, legal and otherwise, of the recent Ninth Circuit Court decision Martin versus the City of Boise. In that decision, the court found that municipalities cannot rouse the homeless from public land at night if there's no viable alternative shelter to be had. The decision, which has cast a new light on homeless policymaking and policing, provided the backdrop for the town hall meeting, as well as the context around Gitlin's recent run-in with a homeless camper on Howe Drive in the harbor.
I think many of you, and I would personally say, have been impacted by some of the collateral consequences, other than sleeping and other than resting, that have occurred at Front Street Park, where there have been ugly confrontations, public urination, public defecation, drug use, alcohol use. I observed the city, President City, 4 truckloads worth of trash were removed today. I observed that. There are social issues. There's also people who have complained to me and said, you know, I'm being catcalled and I'm being harassed by people there. And I had a similar incident when I was guilty of taking pictures of the tents that were there, and I was confronted in a not so pleasant way. So I have great compassion for those who are in need of housing, but I think I'm here tonight, and I'm here in front of you all, and allowing you all to hear that some of the collateral consequences of rules and laws that we have on our books are not necessarily being addressed in the way that I think it should be, and that is why we're here tonight. So I'm going to give the microphone to Bill Gray, attorney and city resident, and ask him to please give us the interpretation of what I just read.
There followed a lengthy dissertation by local attorney Bill Gray on the merits of criminalizing conduct and not status, and just what Martin v. Boise means for law enforcement, and what if the city of Boise had criminalized left-handedness, that kind of thing. Long story short, if there's no place to send them, you can't move the homeless along at night if they're on public land. To tell you the truth, what I learned from this part of the meeting was that City Council member Alex Fallman is one of the loudest guys ever. Before the meeting started, a number of chairs were lined up at the dais, each with a folded piece of paper and a name. Many of the city council were represented in furniture, as was State Senator Mike McGuire. But at the last minute, citing possible Brown Act violations, most of the chairs were returned to civilian status, and many of the city council, well, just Alex really, were made to sit with us, the proles. For the record, I don't think anyone expected Senator McGuire to show up, despite his chair. Anyway, I'm sitting close up with a digital recorder in my hand and headphones on my head, and Alex sits next to me. When he walks up, I look because I think he's wearing tap shoes. He scoots his chair, he scratches his neck, and he's all I can hear in the echoey murmur of the Arts and Crafts building. As the meeting gets going, with Roger reading a summation of the court ruling, then Bill Gray getting into it, Alex pulls out a Subway sandwich wrapped in paper and digs in. It was hilarious, and it made me wish I lived in the city and could vote in their election.
Mandatory religious programs. The court found the city's rule directing the police not to cite homeless individuals when all shelters had reached capacity was too limited.
After Bill Gray, the rest of the panel made opening statements. City Manager Eric Weir, Sheriff Erik Apperson, Chief of Police Ivan Menzel, Mike Thornton from True North, and Mayor Blake Inscore all spoke about the power of the community coming together to fix something. Sheriff Apperson had a recent example of community involvement to tout.
What we need from the community is we need that collaborative part of it. And I would refer to something that happened in the last 2 days. Many of you have heard about the individual that we believe is an arsonist in Gaston. And multiple fires were started, and we deployed a lot of resources on that. It was a collaboration from the community that allowed us to take that person into custody and locate them. Without that component, we couldn't have done that job. And that's the same as what we're doing here today. We need collaboration, we need ideas, and we need action.
About an hour in, the floor was finally open to the public. Mike Justice, head of our Daily Bread Ministries, led off the public comment with some encouraging news about the expansion of his mission.
Okay, so you've got some room.
I wanted to Just to elaborate, I wanted to answer a question for Billy. He was talking about permanent shelter. Right now, we're considered a life-saving shelter. If the temperature gets below 32 degrees, we're immediately open. If it's raining, we open. Any rain, everybody knows we're open when that happens. A rescue mission status is the permit that we're going after and almost got achieved, I believe, by summer next year. We'll have that.
Supervisor Gitlin was kept busy running about the room, mic in hand, like a TV host, trying to get all heard. The public comments ran the gamut, as you might expect, from the bums need a job to people need compassion. Many in the audience spoke about safety concerns in Beachfront Park along Howe Drive, the scene of Rogers and Broglio. Mayor Blake Inscore explained that the city is looking at options regarding Beachfront Park, but that it would be spring before any new ordinances could make it into the books.
We can revise our ordinances in regards to Beachfront Park. We can even be specific with that, but our current ordinance simply doesn't allow for us to do that, the way it's written. So I would say that staff is going to be working with attorneys to try to look at how do we craft that language, and you have to craft it very carefully, because it doesn't do you good to go through this whole process and then find out that it doesn't meet muster. I think that the probably the most reasonable time frame is going to be after the first of the year for us to see anything, and then when you start introducing an ordinance and then introduce it a second time, and then 30 days after that it comes into effect. I think we're talking sometime late spring before we're going to be able to have what we might consider laws on the book. It just takes that much time to adjust these things, and in the intermediate time, we have to go with the guidelines that are in place, and we need to enforce the law. If people are breaking the law, if they're down there defecating or urinating in public, and we see that, then we need to report that, and we need to hold them accountable for that. But that's the process, and so I think that it's going to be spring before we have laws on the books that take into account all the things that the Ninth Circuit Court has brought. And then you have to take into account that who knows what will happen with that ruling while we're doing all this. So it's an error, but that's the process of what we're working towards between now and first of next year, and then rolling it out.
After the meeting concluded, I pigeonholed some of the panelists to gather their thoughts. I started with Mayor Pro Tem and the one panelist who offered nothing all night, Heidi Chme. I mean, no criticism of Councilmember Kime here. It's just that Heidi's one of those people who, when she says nothing, she's speaking volumes. So I asked her what was up.
So it's kind of frustrating that a town hall is organized when we've repeatedly said we're in the midst of all of this that's been thrust upon us. It's frustrating because we have Brown Act guidelines and rules that we have to follow. And to put all of our names up there just seems a little, like a bit of a show.
Community activist Mike Thornton of True North viewed the meeting with cautious optimism.
It was interesting. I was really gratified that as many people turned out as turned out. I really do think that the attorney who was present hit on a really key thing. This community needs to decide what it considers the right thing to do. And I think that's really important, and I think that is very much the work that True North has been engaged in over the last year. How do we bring the community together, the stakeholders and the community as large, and particularly as another participant stated, the homeless themselves, into a process whereby we can really craft some real solutions and not just engage in perpetual Band-Aid reactive approaches.
And according to Supervisor Roger Gitlin, this town hall meeting is only the first.
Well, it's the first of many. This is not a standalone town hall. We're going to do another one in April, and we're going to do them as long as it takes us to get the people who are the deciders, like me, and the city and the county, to get off their proverbial, you know what I'm touching, my duff, and start addressing this situation. Otherwise, we all suffer. I don't have issue with someone who is sleeping in the park because there's no place for him to go. I have issue with collateral issues as a result of me and my wife and others like who are walking along there and are subjected to a hideous condition. That's what I have an issue with. And freedom, I said this a couple of times before, Paul, freedom to throw your fist in the air ends where my nose begins. We have rights too.
Lastly, as the crowd thinned and chairs were stacked, I got to Crescent City Chief of Police Ivan Menzel, a man I've wanted to interview for a while now. He's always seemed a good guy to me. In the locally viral video of Roger and the homeless camper, it's Ivan who shows up and talks sense into what could have been a decidedly nonsensical situation. I asked Ivan his thoughts on Beachfront Park and the many encounters with the homeless that people had brought up during the town hall, and I got an earful of perspective from the man in charge of responding first to our most dire of predicaments.
Beachfront Park, everybody really says, I'm scared to go down. There's no reason to be scared to go down there. Go down there and enjoy it. If something does happen, call us, because we've gotten very few calls. And we, like I said, in the last couple of weeks, we've made 2 arrests. But we go down there. I see people playing soccer. They do run, they bicycle, they walk their dogs, they're doing everything. Continue to do that. That park is for everybody, and I am doing everything and committed my department to do everything to make it safe for everybody.
And the laws, ordinances already exist for you to do that.
Exactly. We'll fine-tune those things, and that's what our elected officials will judge after we submit whatever we think is the best idea to do that. But right now, we've got plenty of things on the books, and we make arrests. We've got cooperation. This is the part about community policing that we engage. I've been engaged. I go down and speak with them and talk about the litter and things, because sometimes they have no control of it. Who I found a big offender in our community for litter is not humans, it's the seagulls. So I have watched them, and I've seen everybody pick up that trash. They get in there, and so, a whole different perspective on litter. But everybody helped pick that up, whether they be the homeless who are staying there, or people who just want to have a nice park, and they're working together. There are going to be individuals who are going to be difficult from all walks of life.
Sure.
That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm a police officer, and my job is to keep the peace, and it's not always an easy thing.
Is it even more difficult, though, having to deal with things like the ninth district, the court decision, and trying to make those things real in a community? It seems like you kind of get hit with every criticism anybody has about the court. It comes to you, because you're the face, you're the shoes on the street.
Law enforcement is the only 24-hour, 7-day-a-week face of government. We get called for everything, and we go down there. And sometimes, our personal opinions don't count. We are mandated to do what the law says, and we can petition back to our elected officials. Hey, this law just is not giving the results that you thought you were going to get. We need to fine-tune that, and that's what will happen here. So we're going to retune our ordinances that'll work, will be in compliance. There's a review system for the Ninth Circuit Court, and this will get through. This will evolve. The problem is it will take time. So we need everybody to be patient and understand that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if you're out there enjoying the park, and you feel that you have an issue or a concern, call. It may be that it's not as big as you think it is once we kind of get to the grassroots of it, and it may be a big thing, and you'll be the hero of the day by calling it in.
It seems like some people sort of misconstrued that from you as being advice to stand your ground.
No, I never said
that seemed kind of like there was a disconnect there. That's not what you're saying.
No, not at all. I said go down and use park, and I corrected the one gentleman. No, I said is go down and enjoy the park. If you choose not to, that is entirely up to you. But go down there and enjoy the park. I'm not asking you to stand your ground and engage in some kind of a altercation or make private persons arrests or do any of those things. I mean, those may be options, but you decide that, not me. What I'm asking to do is what I ask of every person. You have an issue, call the law enforcement to come out and deal with the problem. And we may It may be a bit, it may be immediate. It all depends on what you call in and tell us. And that will happen everywhere.
So, was it all just a show, this town hall meeting? A chance for local politicians to seem like they're doing something, as well as an opportunity for the public to go through the motions of democracy? Maybe, maybe not. But if you were paying attention, you might have noticed that across the board, the community members and policymakers, the cops, sheriffs, and supervisors, everybody in that room was committed to doing their level best for our community. And in my book, that makes for a pretty successful town hall meeting. For KFUG Community Radio, this is Paul Kritz.